Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Rimaru. This is chapter 12, part 1, the performance. It was around late spring when the ship arrived to the city of Oya. The river divided the city in half, and at the center of the river there was a small island. And the island was well fortified with large walls, mainly used to reduce the effect of flooding. And when the banks of the river grew too much, it was common for large segments of the little island to be underwater. And in the tallest segment of the island there was an anachronistic building, and the architecture of the city of Oya had a certain flavor to it, and it reminded Rimaru of Machu Picchu due to the step arrangement and the emphasis on walls and channels. And like Aragon, Oya was constantly struggling to control the element of water, and Oya used walls and channels to deal with the problem, and as for Aragon, it was completely harnessed the element due to the existing plumbing and aqueducts. And the houses were stuck up in slopes in order to gain height, and at the lower tier, there were the farming houses who needed access to the river for irrigation. And the higher tier houses with better views belonged to the rich folks, and there were certain structures that resembled temples, and these temples were perfect spheres with an oculus in the center, and a choice indeed, and the humbler houses were rather square, made with clay roofs, and it was the peasant homes that made Rimaru think of Machu Picchu. As for the water accommodation, they varied greatly in design, and many were getting remodeled, and they showed a new interest in the outside world, and each sea voyager returned with journals informing about buildings and customs and technologies of the outside world. And the current mentality of Oveya nobility was out with the old, in with the new. And for all their advancement, the social structure of the city had not changed one bit. What Oveya lacked in slavery, it made up tenfold with prison labor, and its dependency on prison labor made punishments in the city particularly long and arbitrary at times, and the length of each sentence was not set in stone, though the laws were. And Rimaru noted the colored laws in a large stone tablet at every crossroad, and when she descended from the port, the guy at the immigration office gave Rimaru a fat tome with all of the laws of the city. And Rimaru started flipping through it, but the man with the prosthetic leg told Rimaru, "Those laws are only for commoners." And he handed a little pamphlet to Rimaru, and smiling he said, "These ones apply essentially to workers like you and me." And Rimaru pretended to read the rules over the top, and he then handed the same item to Mindy, who actually bothered to look at the rules. And she started reading the rules of the commoners, and it was at this point when Mindy asked, "What do you go by?" "I thought peg leg was enough for you folks," said the man with the prosthetic leg. "It was at first, but one never knows what the future holds," said Rimaru. "Since you're finally here to know, I am known here as RT," said RT. "Just RT?" asked Sativa. "Just about it," said RT. "Haven't you run out of letters for names by now?" asked Rimaru. The folks stopped as they walked up the stairs and made their way towards the rich folks' home, and each was its own little fortress with guards at the entrance and tall wall. And Artsy's home did not have such protection, rather he simply had a strange fellow guarding the front door. And instead of a wall, Artsy had a hedge bush with lovely pink roses. And from up close, Sativa noted that the man was a hamadryad. And they were more common in the frozen lands of Albion, and it was a wonder what had compelled this plant fellow to dislodge his roots and to move to a god-forsaken land called Scarce. So like the guy guarding his stuff is one of those tree people. Let's think like those plant people from Skyrim or something. And like the rose hedge bush is part of like his own defense thing. So you try to get past the barrier, like the plant, you get an end to the face. You get a spiky tree to the face. Sativa lingered a little to talk to another plant fellow, and then not exchange words nor telepathy. They spoke in the language of flowers, and based on the scent, Artsy didn't know what to make of the two fellows staring at each other. He was aware of his guard's vegetative habits, and he figured that the two plant folks had plenty to bond over. So instead of talking with your voice, they modulate their scent in order to speak. Because plants, they talk by scent, not by sound.
How are you gonna write a dialogue between them?
I know, they're just standing still, just staring at each other. While the emanate various scents, and then people go, so these people smell weird. These people are, and the smell is not consistent. There's something smelly over it. Oh, okay. They're just like staring at each other while they change scents. Like in a movie, you wouldn't be able to like show that. Cause like movies more about sound and all that, but whatever. The interior of Artsy's home was quite modern, with large windows, white walls, and simple glass and metal furniture. The chairs were made of metal and leather, and the floor was made of marble, and the carpets were the only source of pattern and color. And Artsy liked to wear barefoot in his home from time to time, and for that reason he enjoyed the feel of fur beneath his feet. And Artsy sat down and he removed his prosthetic leg, and then he rubbed his numb joint. And Rimaru said to Artsy, "You could have that leg fixed at any point during your travels in the continent of Bersamin." "I don't need to heal what is not broken," commented Artsy, and he added, "My prosthetic leg works just fine, and as a weapon I find it more useful than a piece of flesh." Rimaru sat on the couch and then he said, "Now that is a shame, but suit yourself. I had my leg removed before going on a journey," explained Artsy. "You don't need to make excuses for inquiries that nobody has made," said Mindy, finding a spot to lie down, and she added, "Things in your home certainly do seem a bit too advanced for the vogue of this world." "It doesn't compare to the many wonders I have seen," said Artsy, and he added, "Together with Amis, we have been working in reclaiming technology." "Aha! So he finally gave up on magic," said Rimaru, laughing. "So now we know where Amis turned up." "Magic. So Amis does magic. That might be a problem," said Artsy coolly. "It's fine. He was never that great," said Rimaru. "Why is the magic thing a problem? This world was made habitable specifically to create magic users," said Mindy. "So the record states," said Artsy, and he paused and he then continued. "And yet that is not what history says. And a long time ago this place had a magic tower, very similar to your Suberu's tower. And the magic users carelessly used their powers and they destroyed the life of many folks in their pursuit of their craft. And I'm not saying that they were terrible experiments. Rather, when they played duel, and they did not care if normal people got hurt," said Mindy. So like mages doing like little mage battles and the little muggles dying in the sidelines. Time, bro?
16 minutes.
Exactly. Many rich and poor alike got their homes ruined by doing such play fights, said Artsy. And the folks here consulted the priest and prayed to the gods, but none were able to do much about the problem. And one day, a man came from afar, and he went by the name of KC7 Brutus. And he described himself as human. And it was the policy of the people of this home to call everything and everyone they ran into humans, though he preferred the term android. And he saw our plight and he sealed away the magic, and ever since then, no person in this land has been able to use magic. Seems a bit extreme, don't you think, said Mindy?
Is that the Casey from Casey to Cassius, or?
Well, don't forget that the KC7 is an acronym for the type of...
Oh, Killer 7, yeah.
Yeah, but it's Killer Cyborg.
Oh, yeah.
But it's an acronym for the type of processor that it's like say Windows 95 or Windows 7. You get me?
Gotcha.
So it's not like he's a 7th or something, you know. Just as the T1 is not just one of him, but thousands of him that are of that brand. You get me?
Yeah.
So that's just one named Brutus. Well, if magic users were being a bother, then some sins could not be helped. Just because you have power doesn't give you the right to bully others, said Rimaru. "Damn straight, find me a bully, why don't you? I will bury him," said Mindy, making her tentacles into tiny fists. He said, "Find me a bully, find me a bully."
He just wants to kill something.
"Find me the bully, I'm gonna go after him." I haven't killed anything in a while. But her ritual prevents her from just flat out killing something. Mindy started ranting a bit with Artsy, and fellows who receive advanced prosthetics usually had to shorten their names to 2 letters. It was usually the first and last names, and a couple even added numbers to relate to how many prosthetic parts they were using. And as for Rimaru, he was amusing himself by looking out the window, and due to the height of Artsy's manor, he was able to get a clear view of the castle in the middle of the island. And the structure was the oldest building in the city. It was a ziggurat, and it had 4 floors, with each one becoming skinnier and taller as you went up. And it also had side stairs to ascend adjacent to the center in either side of the floor. And the third floor was shaped like a conch. Right on cue, a priest pedal had come out and ran the conch, and it resonated all over the city. Artsy stopped talking to Mendes, and then he said more to himself. Is it about that time already? He prostrated himself facing the conch temple, and after 10 minutes he finished his prayers, and to mark the ending of the prayer, 2 other priests exited the temple, and this time they played 2 large elf horns. You know, like those weird horns? Rimaru asked, is this like a daily type of deal, or is it just my lucky day? It is more of training. It is more tradition than anything else. And don't worry, they don't bother folks at night anymore, said Artsy, smiling. Like, they used to have night prayers, but, like, they don't do that, you know. Like, just imagine in the middle of the night, like, time to pray, wake up, you should be praying. Anymore, that doesn't sound too promising, said Mindy. And the rest of the day was passed rather smoothly, and right on cue, every 5 hours, the guys at the temple would play the conch, and the cycle would repeat itself. And the region got about 15 hours of daylight, so the priests called for prayers 3 times a day. And in the old days, they played their horns once every 3 hours, but the complexities of a growing city, this tradition started to interfere with work, and for that reason, it was now being played 3 times a day, and no longer at night, except during holidays. And when Artsy concluded his prayers, Rimaru asked, does that Brutus fellow keep visiting? He stops by from time to time, and mainly to just visit the orphan. He likes small children, said Artsy with no particular concern in his voice. Do you know what Casey means? Asked Mindy. I don't know, said Artsy. It means killer computer. My father then created them to kill, but were never deployed into battle, and from time to time a Casey pops up, and they are usually quite a bother, said Mindy. So, like the Caseys, from the Casey to Cassius, they are derived from the killer computer model, from like the killer computer of the robots. You know, like you know how like they found one and then they backwards engineered it, or some stuff like that. You only complain because you failed to kill one, guessed Rimaru. Now shut up, leave me alone, said Mindy, before rising and going to mumble in a corner. Like she tried to kill one of them robots and she failed, and now she feels weak because it was the one thing she wasn't able to kill, and that bothers her. Mendes continued her mumbling for a great part of the day, and when dusk came, Artsy decided to take Rimaru and his companions to meet their leader, and it was tended to do so in order to show that their mission had some semblance of success, and other fellows who had done missions to the continent had returned with elves, fairy, nymphs, and other folks they considered curiosities. And for humans used to seeing only their own kind, those strange humanoid creatures were quite the novelty. And Artsy considered himself quite proud indeed, and he was going to show his ruler a sustenance and a squid monster. And to keep the surprise, he insisted on hiding Mindy inside a box. Mindy, who was not used to the circus treatment, happily obliged, and she was hoping that a fellow would pick up a fight with her, and then she would have an excuse to bite his head off or something. And the castle was up a hill, and it was a building at the highest point of the city. And no other structure was allowed to tower over it, and the castle was currently being reconstructed, and it was composite of many different styles and design, and almost as if the leader were a child who changed his mind, and when the next cool thing came along. So like the castle had many different patterns, because like, ooh, look at this type of architecture, let's do that, let's continue doing that instead. So just consider like a castle who's like a mirror of all of the known architecture styles.
So they literally say, what style are we going to use? And then they say, yes.
What style do you want to use for the castle? And they say, yes. Let's think about it. Just think about a madness that looks like that. Because usually, like in architecture, they usually marry to one style or they do a blend of it, but not like going 100% purist and green Greek, and then you do a section that is pure Gothic, but then you get bored of Gothic, and then you do something modern, and then you
do Palatian style, American Palatian style.
And then you do Neolithic, because why the hell not?
Basically an Animal Crossing island.
Yeah. Basically, alright. Specific. The entrance to the palace hall had many plaques and was also being decorated, and based on the exposed colors, they were recreating the dragon columns from the Throne of Bersamin. And up the stairs, Rimaru walked with her escort, and she was the performer for a new type of item. She could not get the feel for what type of work, so she decided to play it safe. And she wore a long-sleeve floral embroidered dress with circle skirt that ended just over her ankles, and the top part was tied on her frame with a large, elegant red ribbon around her neck. And the dress also came with a red sash, and she wore flat-heeled shoes, and her black hair was combed back and held in place by a thin red hairband. As was already established, she was the sort of fellow who liked changing her hair and color from time to time, and for makeup she wore red lipstick, a bit of eyeliner, and thin silvery eyeshadow. And while Rimaru walked, she started thinking of food, and Sativa heard her start and brought out from his pocket some snacks. And when Rimaru was in public in a new place, she tried her best to pretend to be as normal as possible, and it was Sativa's job to feed her when she got her first performance munchies. That when she's nervous, she gets the munchies, and then her friend has to feed her. The nobles in the interior court were all currently sporting kimonos, and an old Japanese print had been found floating in the ocean, and the print was safely secured inside a wine bottle, and the print featured a large group of maidens in kimonos passing by, while others watched as they sat under a red rug. And on top of them were cherry blossoms, and the rest of the background had two curtains and some scribbles the locals could not read. And since kimonos were the current theme of the king, all of the other nobles in court had to follow in suit. So then they just suddenly found a Japanese print, and they were like, now the fashion is kimonos. We're all kimonos now. Whether that makes sense or not. You get me? The frivolous ruler was the god king Kasha, and he had arrived to power only 5 years ago, and as with most monarchies, his rise to power had been problematic, and while his older brother and sister fought for the throne, Kasha had spent his time watching his little castle burn from the comfort of the cigarette, and when his sister killed his brother, none of the locals accepted a lady ruler, or maybe they hated her because she committed fratricide. She was quietly married to the king from the north to limit her powers, and Kasha had spent most of his childhood at the temple, and now that he was allowed to get everything he ever wanted, he was going a bit overboard with the spending. And to subsidize his newfound love of stuff, he sent expeditions to explore. So it's just like somebody that spent all of his life in a temple, and then suddenly in like great austerity, and suddenly he has spending money, and he can finally get all of the crazy things he wanted, and that's why the castle reflects his love of stuff, and him losing interest in things just as quickly. Now we're doing kimono. Oh wait, I've got this in the school. Let's get some of that as well. But no, this is more interesting. Now let's do that. You get me, right? Yeah. That's how they rule, and that's why they're getting a lot of expeditions. Go out into the world and find me stuff. Stuff I haven't seen. Stuff I never seen before. And also find me people. Find me things to bear for my eyes. Because I am your king. And your king requires stuff.
I don't know what stuff, go find me stuff.
What stuff? And then I said, what stuff? And then he said, yes. He said, what stuff do you want, my king? And then he said, yes. Give me everything.
I want all the things.
I want everything. But I don't want to go get it, so you guys go get it. Here's some money, go get me stuff. Here's some spending money. Go out into the world and find me stuff. What's that stuff I get? And yes. I said, okay. Yes to everything. So yeah. Kasha looked at Rimaru from head to toe, and he examined the lady and he examined the maiden like a piece of meat, and he scratched his small blonde mustache as he often did whenever he pretended to think. He said, thinking deep thoughts. I am thinking. This is what I do when I'm thinking. He had pitch black eyes and short blonde hair, and the darkness of his eyes gave folks the impression that he was a deep thinker. And his only talent was his charisma and nothing else, and with a rousing speech he could easily convince you to jump off a cliff. And at the moment he was not in a trying sort of mood, and he wore a red lady kimono with a golden sash, and every so often he had to stand up to reincorporate his golden kimono, and the fact that all they had to go on was a picture meant that nobody knew how to make a proper kimono, let alone tie it. So they said they don't have a physical kimono, they just have a picture of one. So they just created a fabric around it, but they don't know how you're supposed to tie it or anything.
Oh, and it looks like freely.
Or how it's supposed to function or tie, so it just gets opening all the time. So the king's kimono keeps, and everyone else's kimono keeps opening at random, inopportune times. But it's a fashion that the king mandates. The king mandates kimonos. Even though he doesn't know what a kimono is, he just has a picture of one. Kasha shifted his position in his current uncomfortable throne, and the warriors of the castle rolled their eyes at this display. And Kasha then said to Artsy to resume with their usual court formalities. "Welcome, Artsy. How fared your journey?" Artsy gave a small bow before saying, "It went great, Your Excellency, and I come very gifts from my journey." Artsy then proceeded to showcase and describe some of the items he had gotten from the continent of Persian. The item that caught the most attention was a compact mirror, and Kasha exclaimed and said, "Such a simple yet useful design. It seems a bit obvious now that I think about it. Why ever would we not make smaller mirrors?" And says to this technology, a woman will no longer have an excuse for not looking presentable at all times. The ladies of the court chuckled, and the men nodded in agreement, and on the meantime Rimaru had the lifeless look on her face, and Kasha stared at Rimaru, but Rimaru did not look back, and it was then when Kasha asked, "And who is this fellow?" "This is Rimaru, a singer from Aragon, the capital of music of the New World," started saying Artsy when he was interrupted by Sativa. "New to you, perhaps," said Sativa. "A singer from the new continent. It's new to you, maybe, but..."
It's not. Yeah, like how they keep calling the North America the New World. It's like,
it's new to you, European, and not even the European, because like the Celtics were in the New World before Christopher Columbus got there, so it's not even technically new to the Europeans, because like the Celts, and even before the Celts there was that blonde guy Quetzalcoatl that came over there to Mexico.
And then you have the people who have been living there for millions of years.
And the continent wasn't new to them either,
Yes. Well, you had less than a minute, so like...
let's just leave it there. She's talking to the jerk king. Bye-bye and God bless.